No matter how you feel about Pokemon Legends ZA, it's undeniable that Game Freak bringing back Mega Evolution is the most hyped thing they've done in the last decade. However, there are still some fan favorites that haven't gotten a Mega Evolution yet. One of these Pokemon, and probably the most requested Mega throughout the years since its initial introduction, is Flygon. People love Flygon. However, with stats that range from middling to barely passable, it's not hard to see why it doesn't exactly thrive in battle. But with the power of Mega Evolution, even historically bad Pokemon like Kangaskhan can become a top 5 competitive meta threat. So I'd like to theorize on what a hypothetical Mega Flygon would look like, and see if I can create a version of my personal favorite Pokemon that's worth putting on a competitive team. To make Mega Flygon good, we must first identify its greatest obstacle, and that is, of course, Garchomp. And unfortunately, there is no room for arguing here. Garchomp is almost strictly better than Flygon. It doesn't have a single base stat that is lower than the same stat on Flygon, and its total stats are 80 higher. This means that even with the 100 extra stats we're given to work with, we'll only total 20 more stats than Garchomp, and Garchomp is still able to utilize an item, while Flygon obviously is holding a Mega Stone. So we really have our work cut out for us just to compete. But despite all that, I still believe there's some strengths that Flygon has over Garchomp, namely, its move pool and malleability. I had noticed while checking their available moves that while Garchomp has strictly better stats, Flygon has an almost strictly better and more versatile move pool. And as history with these two shows, raw power wins every time. However, with this hypothetical Mega Flygon, we can even the power difference and potentially make Flygon even stronger if the extra stats are properly distributed. And to start off with the stat distribution, I'll start by fixing its speed. 100 was pretty good in Generation 3, but it's been 2 decades, and that just won't cut it anymore. So I've decided to raise its speed stat to 136. Just enough to outspeed the Paradox threats that played competitive play, but not quite enough to give the Z Megas a run for their money. Next, I decided to raise its bulk a tiny bit, mainly because I think simply min-maxing its best stats would be really fucking boring. I mean, who wants to Mega Evolve just to only see 2 stats go up, right? And you might think that from here, I would simply dump the rest of the remaining stats into attack and call it a day. And while that is certainly an option, and probably the best one, Flygon is much more versatile than that. There are multiple directions we can go from here. Like I said, giving it performance enhancers is an option, but it's not the only one. See, Flygon has a lot of very useful special moves, such as Heat Wave. This is notable because Flygon's attack isn't so much higher than its special attack that the very thought of making it a special attacker is some sort of outlandish idea. I honestly don't believe it's an impossibility that Game Freak would go as far as to take points out of its attack to put more into its special attack. This may even be beneficial, as Flygon's list of special moves may even trump having a good physical attack stat. With moves like Boom Burst, with its base 140 power with 100% accuracy, as well as adjacent targeting, Earth Power and Dragon Pulse for stab, as well as the rest of its large variety of coverage moves such as Alluring Voice or Bug Buzz. However, as I said before, I do believe that simply pumping the rest of the remaining stat points into attack is the best move for Flygon. And I had a reason. Flygon's physical moves may not be quite as strong as its special moves on average. It has one move that more than makes up the difference. And that move is Dragon Dance, giving it 50% more speed, and of course, 50% more attack power to its physical moves as well. This makes any of its physical moves hit like a double-decker bus. Stab Earthquake becomes a field clearer, and Superpower will annihilate any ice types hoping to stand in your way. Stab Dragon Rush will make your opponent feel their own personal 9/11, or Dragon Claw if you don't want to take risks. And now we're at the final part that I want to talk about. But before I do, I'd like to quickly mention the popular suggestion that Mega Flygon would be a bug type. And while it does sort of make sense, we have to realize how much worse that would make Flygon, right? Aside from aesthetics, there's no good reason that Flygon would want to have its type changed, especially not to bug. And now, the final thing I wish to talk about is abilities. Now, Levitate is a fine ability, but since it's not weak to ground anyways, it usually doesn't really do much, so I'd like to change it. But to what? Well, this answer is actually very easy to narrow down. See, Flygon and its line and lore really like sand. So much so that you basically never see it without sand being somewhere nearby. So we simply must choose between any of the sand abilities. But to be honest, I really only want to pick between these two, as Sand Veil is lame and we don't need another Sandstream user. But between these two, I would opt for Sand Rush basically every time. It's a cooler ability in my opinion, and it allows Flygon to become a ground type that can outspeed Regieleki, which would be very valuable. On top of that, Sand Force would only really power up Earthquake, which also damages your partner, or Rock Slide, which isn't stab. I just generally believe that Sand Rush would be better overall, and finally allow Flygon to potentially have a place in the meta over Garchomp, who has kept Flygon in the shadows of competitive play since Gen 4. And with that, our Mega Flygon is finally complete. With 145 in attack and 136 in speed with the Sand Rush ability. Do you believe this would be enough to finally make Flygon usable in competitive play, or is it doomed to be stuck in RU for all eternity? Let me know, and thank you for watching.